Hello, and welcome to another episode of That One Time on Tour. My name is Chris. This is my, we'll say weekly right now, but maybe bi-weekly podcast where I talk to friends of mine and acquaintances of mine in and around the music industry about what it's like to be on the road and, just basically being in a band, being a musician in life. So it is about 2:30 a.m., and I am recording this intro. I've got two little ones, so I don't have a lot of time to do these intros. My wife is very, very great and gives me Sundays to do some phone calls with some guys for the podcast. But then late at night, I have to do everything else. So last night I was up till about 4 o'clock editing this episode, and tonight I am doing the intro. So thank you so much for checking this out. The response to the first two episodes was kind of overwhelming, actually. A lot of international listeners, which is really cool for me. I love my international friends. I've got a lot of you guys on Facebook, Instagram. So, if you're from a country other than the United States of America, please give us a shout out on Facebook or Instagram. Let us know that you're checking this out. Let us know that you're listening. And this is great. I'm having a really good time. So thank you guys once again for listening to this podcast. Please, if you have any questions about anything, or, if you have any guest ideas, send us an email at TOTOTPodcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on all the social media, platforms. The handle is TOTOT Podcast on all of the different social media sites. Thank you so much. This is a great thing, and I really enjoy doing it. I hope that you guys are getting some kind of enjoyment out of it, whether it be on your commute to work or, if you're just sitting at home listening to this. Thank you for allowing me into your life. So this is episode number 3. My guest on the podcast today is my really, really good friend, Ty Fury. I met Ty on the Monsters of Rock cruise back in 2013. Ty played guitar for the band Trapt. Ty did guitar tech work for Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots. He's done a lot of really cool stuff. He was in a band with the clown, Sean, from Slipknot. The guy's been around the block. So we have a really good time chatting, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So here it is, my conversation with my good pal, Ty Fury. Hey, Ty, man, what's going on?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. So I hear you're traveling. I was going to talk to you in Nashville, but I guess you're still out on the road, right?
I never know where I'm going to be because things are changed up a little bit. But, yeah, I'm in Vegas now. We did a show last night here, and I can't wait to be home. So we're on the way.
You're guitar teching for Chris Young, correct?
Yeah, currently Chris Young, country star. I tech for him personally and his lead guitarist, Kevin Collier. It's an amazing camp. Probably the best move I ever did was jump into country. It's been amazing. It's been great.
I know the money's pretty good in country for the techs and the songwriters and everything. I know it's a little bit better than some of the rock stuff.
Not only the money is good, but the scheduling is polar opposites from what we're used to in the rock world. I mean, I know I was on tour last year with my band for 8 months straight, and I was paying rent the whole time in California. Never there, but wasting all that money and being out for so long is ridiculous. Now the scheduling being like 3 on, 4 off, 4 on, 3 off, and it just rotates like that. It's great. I mean, I have 12 days off after 2 shows next week, so a lot of downtime. I mean, I get bored, but it's a different situation.
With a thing like that, like, are you on retainer? Like, are you getting paid when you're not on the road so you don't go to another camp, or?
Yes, I do. It's a very different setup. With my gig personally, I'm a salary tech, so it's great. I mean, I don't have to look for gigs and scramble in between tours. So they take great care of me all year, and the thing is, though, they snap their fingers and I'm there. And it's great, the check's cash. I don't have to, I've been in bands where I was tour managing shit while playing guitar or teching, and too many hats. So this one's great. Oh, I love it. I really love it. Not only that, but the camp is amazing. It's a better environment for me. It's positive. It's a clean atmosphere. And what's different about it, what I really appreciate is a lot of people like you and me, we get off tour and you know from people until the next tour. Well, in this camp, people call you and we hang out and we bullshit outside of the tour, which is great because it's such an alienating and lonely thing. When you get off tour and you thought those people you know better than your own family were your best friends, but you get off tour and they're gone. So for me in this camp now, it is much different.
I used to call that post-tour syndrome, because you get home from tour and you don't really want to go do anything because you've been out for so long, but then when you want to go do stuff, you can't find any of the people you used to hang out with.
Exactly. Where is everybody? Where'd they go? They said they loved me. But everybody pretty much lives in Nashville, and that's something I had to do because before this, when I was playing in Trapt, I lived in LA. And while I was on tour with another band as their tech, Saving Abel, I came across this job opening, applied for it, actually through Bobnet, which I want to give a huge shout out to, which is the second time I've gotten a gig through Bobnet. I got the Scott Weiland gig through Bobnet, and now I got this one through Bobnet, which I applied for. And I truly believe only through my references and work in the past that is the reason I got the job, because it's all about, as you know, it's all about who you know. It's all about word of mouth. It's all about, who's going to vouch for you. So I had some pretty good references, which the people in Chris Young's camp knew and called. And so here I am.
Were you in Nashville when you got the gig, or did you move there because that was a better base?
Well, it's not only where I had to be for the gig, but I know I was not in Nashville. I was bouncing all over, but my home was in LA. 2 days after I got this gig, I moved permanently to Nashville. I played 2 last shows with Trapt, and after the shows, I said goodbye and got my gear, put it in storage, went to Nashville, and started about a week later with these guys. It was crazy, but all my life, that's how it's been. It's been spontaneous moves. I've lived in 12, 15 states in the past 10 years, all following either my guitar or now what I've created as a teching career, which is something I never thought I would do because I've always been a player, always wanted to perform. And one of my first guitar techs, my first guitar tech, when he handed me a guitar when I went on stage, it was so awkward. I was like, "Well, is everything in tune?" He's like, "Shut the hell up, man. Go out and play." Was everything plugged in? Dude, fuck off. Go out there.
The first time that I had a tech, I was like, I'm so anal and kind of control freak about my gear. He handed it to me and I'm like, I still tuned it before I went out just to make sure.
And you know what? Even my dude here in Chris Young, like I'll hand him a tuned guitar. And that's just a reflex as guitar players. You'll check it, you'll tune it. I see his hands go up to that headstock, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" Staring at him. But my first guitar tech, his name was Karma Chiva, and he teched back in the day for Jerry Cantrell. Currently I think he plays with American Head Charge right now, and he was with OTEP. At the time, he was teching for me while I toured with a band called Motograder back in the days where it was the original band. Around 2002 or so, and he gave me the guitar. But one thing he said to me, I'll never forget, and he said, "Bands come and go, but techs have careers."
Definitely, yeah.
And it didn't really register until years later, where I got my first tech gig, and then fully encompassed the whole career aspect of it, where it's like, well, I could bounce around or stay stable with one band if I'm lucky for 20, 30 years, get a gray beard and do it like a lot of these guys do, and be paid and have a house and be relied on by somebody, have a relationship with a guitar player that is very important to another tech. Martin Connors, who's Jim Root's tech, who while I was in a band called Dirty Little Rabbits, we were out with Stone Sour. Jim's tech was really inspiring for me. I saw him and I saw his world, the whole guitar world, and I was like, I love this area. I'm a geek, totally love gear. And that was inspiring to me. And him and Jim are so close. They bought houses next to each other in Jacksonville.
Wow.
And it's like, man, I want that, because my band wasn't too tight. We were never really tight. I was close with a few, but I wanted the relationship aspect as well as the work part of it.
I think that's probably a good segue then. Like, I remember a little bit of history between you and I. We met back on the Monsters of Rock cruise back in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
Got to be friends on that, and there's some stories on that one we might let go for this podcast. But I found out later on, that you were asked to join Trapt. You were teching for them, and then they asked you to join the band. Can you give me a little bit of history on that, and then what led you, initially to leave the band?
Yeah. So after Monsters of Rock, which was a great intro to, the cruises were a lot different, but kind of the backline position and teching and crew stuff. After that, the person I was with at the time was a production assistant. You remember Katie from the tours. Her and I both ended up working for In This Moment. She was production, I was guitar tech. So we both landed those gigs together, and that was my first tech gig. At the time, I was working in a shop, refretting and teching and setting up a lot of guitars, which was a passion. So we got on that tour. That ended. I actually got fired from that gig, the second tour, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. And after that, one of the dudes on the tour, his name's Jerome. He was stage manager, set car, the man. He works for Breaking Benjamin now, and he's a great dude. He called me a few months or so after I left In This Moment, and I was sitting on my best friend's porch, actually wondering, what the hell am I doing? What am I going to do? I don't have anything now. Like, I got to go back to regular life. And he said, hey, do you want to go tech for Trapt? And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And so actually, funny thing is at that moment, I turned to my best friend who lives in Denver, Chad, and I was like, hey, man, I'm taking this dude's job. I'm taking that player's job. And I said that to him. And I knew
That's
it
awesome.
right then. I wanted it. I wasn't even a fan of Trapt. I mean, I wish I could say I was. Yeah, I wish I could say I was, but, that shit would come on and I'd turn the channel. Not until I got into the band and realized the potential and the musicianship of the band and how creative and how much they've learned in their career that I started, gaining a lot of respect for them. However, so I started teching for them. I went out on one tour, and I really knew what I wanted. I wanted to play, and so I killed it as a tech. Even Pete, the bassist, to this day will be like, Ty's the best tech we ever had. But I wanted to play. So a couple weeks in, I know they were looking to replace Travis because he actually played in Atreyu primarily.
Really?
Yeah, he played in Atreyu. It always has been in Atreyu. Started Atreyu, but he was in Trapt at that time, and they,
that's quite a different band, Trapt and Atreyu. Very stylistically different.
And Travis is probably one of the coolest dudes I've ever met in my life.
I've met those guys when I was playing. I was doing some tours out in on the West Coast and on Warped Tour and whatnot back in the day, and we did some shows with Atreyu. They're good guys.
Yeah. So he was playing guitar, and I pretty much put myself forward at line check and while setting up, and I winked. I showed off at sound check as much as I could, and tried to get the attention of Chris, the lead singer, Chris Taylor Brown, who is Trapt. And not long after, he took notice, and pretty much, fast forwarding a few days later, came up to me and asked me how long I was going to take to learn the whole set. And I told him a couple days. After that tour ended, Travis went home. I spent a week at home learning the set and the backup vocals. Went out and did my first gig with them, and then I was with them for about 3 years or so after that, and did the new album with them, which is called DNA, which we're really proud of. Didn't gain as much traction as we wanted, but there's some songs out there that, coming from my brother showing me Trapt when I was younger to playing in the band, it was a happy time for me. It was a huge accomplishment. So, yeah.
When you guys were writing and recording that record, I mean, just from what I know of you, I've always felt that, you know, you were probably liked stuff stylistically a little heavier than Trapt.
Sure.
Were you able to like inject any of your own writing or your own like biases into the music, or was it kind of already set up?
Yeah, no, I mean, that band, what's interesting was while I was writing at home for the band, I would go at home, I'd write, I'd go to Pete's, the bass player, and write. I'd go with Chris and write. We'd all collaborate. But at home, I struggled to kind of dumb myself down to be Traptish, because at the time I was super into like Periphery and Kill Switch and I've always been a very Dream Theater progressive guitarist. So I really had to dumb myself down. I mean, you listen to the opening riff of Headstrong, and I mean, come on, it's a super catchy riff, but so easy. But that's what matters. And I tried to do this, and I was like, Pete, dude, I'm trying to write shit for us. And he said, stop trying. And at that point, I was like, okay. So I stopped trying. We ended up with some good songs. A lot of the album was a lot of my creation, a lot of collaboration, a lot of in studio writing together. That album wouldn't have come together if it wasn't for all of us. But to tell you the truth, I mean, without hurting anybody's feelings, Pete and I did that album together. He engineered the entire thing. We got Chris Lord-Alge to produce it or to mix it, which was amazing. But Pete was behind the helm at the whole time, you know, telling me what sucked, telling me what was good, telling me it was out of tune, telling me to do it again. Working on writing parts in the studio is what we did 50-60% of the time. So yeah, but it was hard to adjust to Trapt because I was much more of a extroverted player, a lot more show off shit, a lot more. So where's the solo? I think there's one solo on that album in the song. Wow, it's been a while since I've heard that album. There's one solo on that album, and I spent a night writing it. We went in, I nailed it in one take. After a few takes, I nailed it in one take. And then Chris cut 4 bars out of it, which we fought over for a week. And ultimately, he was right. So, yeah, it worked out. But it was a huge learning process for me, because before that, I'd never been into a huge studio with, you know, people that have done platinum albums before. So it was great.
Well, I know from my own experience of like joining the Ataris, like I was always into punk rock, but I was also a metal player. Like I'd been in metal bands my whole life. So I think I looked at it a little bit differently than maybe you did. I looked at it as I could almost relax on stage, where every other band I'd ever been in, I had to concentrate and focus so much that I could hardly even enjoy the show.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I relaxed a lot with Trapt. It was a lot of groovy riffs that I was able to I wouldn't even have to focus on my playing, and I would throw the fuck down on stage. And I had a lot of backup vocal parts, but I loved throwing down. I still love throwing down. I miss that, but it's all a rhythmic path, you know, thing through the body with the riff from the ground for the part, and I miss that. But Trapt was super simple. I mean, there were a few parts I'd have to focus on that I didn't want to fuck up. I really was always sort of band leader saying this needs to be tighter. You know, we need to work. We need to add a harmony. We need to add a track for the guitar harmony here that's not there live. So yeah, I was really relieved to kind of settle back and throw down, playing simple parts. You know, you play the intro to Headstrong or Still Frame and These Walls and Chris's intro. And it's a lot of 3-chord shit, but it was fun. It worked, and a lot of people liked it, and it was fun to be a part of at the time. Things did fall apart towards the end there. It was a difficult band to keep together.
Was it personalities within the band that you clashed with? I mean, you don't have to go super deep, but like, was it one thing that happened, or was it kind of stuff led up to that?
It was difficult, man, because Chris wanted full control, as he deserved full control. It was his baby, his band, the only band he's ever been in. But he was so controlling, it became hard to deal with. And I tried so hard, and we became best friends. But in the end, I mean, to be honest, having, you know, a wife out on tour, and we all were not in our perfect headspace, it collapsed. It fell apart. lack of management was a big thing. Lack of organization, lack of communication was a huge part of it. So if that stuff was tied up, I think there would have been a lot more success with that band after the latest album.
But you look back at it with like fond memories, though, right? There's not a lot of bad blood.
Man. Oh yeah, nothing but happy memories and great experiences. Places I would have never gone, shows I would have never played. You know, there's a few shows that stick out of my mind with there's just 16, 20,000 people, and they know the lyrics. We're throwing down, we're connecting. Oh, it was great. It was something that I've longed for all my life, and I knew one day I would have that experience, hopefully again. But with Trapt, I got that, and it was very satisfying to be a part of that, not only as a guitar player, but in other, contributions. As far as I TM'd, I hired and trained crew members from scratch, found guitar techs, went through a few guitar techs in a year, and tried to put together a solid crew for the band. And managed a lot of things while I, just was supposed to play guitar, but I care a lot about any band I'm in. So I'm going to do, without effort, I want to be the go-to guy. I want to be, I'd go out, I'd leave the bus and go to the meet and greet crowd and be like, hey guys, Trapt will be out shortly. Thank you for your patience. And then I'd walk out, hey, nice to meet you. I'm with Trapt. And they're like, what the fuck? You just told us shut the hell up and wait. And then, awesome. Here you're the guitarist and tour man. Who the fuck are you? But I'd have to, somebody had to do it. And I did it. I was glad to do it. But so, yeah, a lot of hats, difficult band. But in the end run, it was a hell of a lot of fun.
So when that sort of ended, you found yourself away from that. Was that directly into Chris Young, or when did you do the Scott Weiland stuff?
I did Scott Weiland while I was with Trapt. Actually, I was his second pick. The first guy fell through, straight through Bobnet. First guy fell through. He called me when I was actually trimming rose petals while landscaping in California, Laguna Beach area. Got the call from Maxie right there. Said, hey, we need a tech. And the funny thing was his guitarist, Jeremy, who unfortunately passed away a few months after I joined, 7 months before Scott. He and I have history in Denver from when I cut my teeth in my baby bands locally.
Wow.
He was in the band that I ultimately started up from the ground. He was the first guitar player. So he saw a sticker on my Pelican that said Fomo Fuyab, which stood for 4 motherfuckers in a band.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit, you know them? And I was like, I was the guitar player for that band. And he's like, no, I was the guitar player for that band. Who at the time had never played shows. They just had a name and jammed. And then he left to LA to go do, and ultimately found Scott. But they found me through a Guitar Center ad. I was like 20. And that was the beginning of Fomo Fuyab. But when Jeremy saw that, we instantly bonded. It was amazing. And ever since then, him and I were like bros. But unfortunately, we lost him. And unfortunately, we lost Scott. But yeah, I was with him for over a year or so. It was an amazing experience meeting Joey Castillo and playing and jamming and playing, doing sound checks with those guys and learning and hanging out with them. Oh, God, it was amazing. When we had to go to Jeremy's funeral, that was tough. And then I was out of town for Scott's. But there was a lot of times Scott and I were riding together on the bus that I wish I would have recorded.
I mean, you grow up and there's these guys that are like untouchable. Like, I've been in signed bands, you've been in signed bands, but there's that like second level guys like Cornell and Scott Weiland and Eddie Vedder. And I think they've done it all. Yeah. That's so great that you actually got to spend time with him and like become part of his life. Like I envy that a lot because he's one of those guys that I just grew up, and when he opened his mouth, it was like angels singing, man.
Yeah, amazing. And it was amazing to be around him. Things I learned from him, the fun times we had, the good steaks we had, and I have a lot of memories and trinkets and whatnots from those times that I'll always cherish. And great relationships to this day with Tommy Black, his bass player, and his wife Jamie, that I still keep in touch with, that were amazing. But that was a great gig that so I was with them, and then when I went back to Trapt after a few years of things going downhill with Trapt, I ended up going out with some mutual friends, the band Saving Abel. I teched for them last year around March. And while I was on that tour, I got another BobNet ad, country artist looking for A-level guitar tech, and I don't consider myself an A-level tech. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I just tune the shit. I know what I would expect, and that's all I do. So it said Nashville based, it said all this stuff, and I applied for it, got a call for it, got an interview for it, and got the gig and had to decide, okay, am I going to quit my band and go tech? And the economics of it was, yeah, you'd be stupid not to take this gig. So I did. So a few days later, I played a couple Trapt shows, the last two, and then took off for Nashville.
I saw, speaking of Chris Young, I saw on your Facebook, and then I also did some more research, because I knew I was going to be speaking with you, and I haven't seen you in 5 years. I saw that you guys opened up for Garth Brooks. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Oh, man. That was amazing. I always wanted to see Garth Brooks, and opening up for him was an experience because not only his crew was amazing, but his show was as many shows as I've seen in my life, from metal to rock, country, this and that. I've never heard a louder crowd that loved their artist so much, and it was just so intense, and he had so much energy. Such a nice guy. I mean, while we were setting up, he came up, normal clothes, and was like, good to see you guys again, and thanks for being here. Super cool guy. And he even comes out. Yeah, it was amazing. It was fun, and I can't wait to see him again.
I've played some massive shows, like when I was in the Ataris, we did some big festivals and whatnot, but is there like a different vibe when you walk into an arena and there's that many people? I mean, that has to be insane, even being in Guitar World or like Monitor World back behind the stage.
Yeah, man. The funny thing is, it's so much more separated, because as well as I know, those intimate shows where you could just reach out and touch the crowd are the best, even when it's not that many people, and you connect with those people. And although I'm not playing, I can still, understand what they're feeling on stage. And when you walk into an arena, like we do 20, 30,000 people arenas right now, and it's a huge separation in my eyes, even as a tech over on Guitar World, because the people they're reaching so far, and you got this 20-foot gap with Monitor World, and then the barricade and in front, and you throw a guitar pick at these people, and be lucky if it makes it to them. But in the few arena shows I played with Trapt while we were on the Make America Rock tour, I remember it was more difficult to connect with, rather than the intimate, sweaty, hot, crazy, small, smelly gigs that we did. Those were the best. Those are always the best. And you want to play for as many people as you can, but sometimes the best ones are the smaller gigs.
I feel the same way. I mean, because you go into a gig where there's, 20, 30,000 people, and like you said, there's the barricade and everything. But like, I know from my experience of being in a band that in certain markets we're huge and in certain markets we weren't, we would go from playing a massive show to then playing like a bar where people are an inch from your face singing words at you and there's spit covering your face.
Yep, that's the best. That's what I'd prefer. I'd prefer those. I
actually do too.
Yeah, I remember a few huge shows that were great, but I felt like the energy I was putting out, was like so much more, and it took so much more effort to get to the crowd, although they were still throwing down. And then our singer was up in the front row standing on people, singing, holding someone's hand, and it was amazing. But some of the bar gigs where you're right there and you're handing your pick to somebody, and you're letting the crowd strum your guitar at the end of the song, and it's just right there in your face. And then those people come up to you at the end, and they're easy to spot. You buy them a drink, and you have fun with them and talk to them. Those are the best ones. Those are what makes it all worth it. We get our own satisfaction from playing, writing, being in the band, and we do it for the people that want to share that connection with us. And man, the best part of my career has been meeting the people that really understand music the way that I do, and and that connection. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And that's why I still do it. I'll sacrifice anything to stay in this world, genre to genre, to keep understanding how much more deeper it goes.
Well, I'll tell you, man, like, I've been off the road now for a while. I have a son now and I have a daughter, and I like being family guy, but that's kind of why I started this podcast. Like, I'm not playing in a band currently, and I wanted some way to kind of express myself, and I also wanted an excuse to talk to my old friends that have been on the road.
Dude, that's such a good idea. My buddy actually sitting right in front of me right now, Ryan, Chris's guitar player, he told me I should start a podcast and interview techs and talk to people like that too. I would love to do it. You know, I should do it. He did a podcast the other day with somebody in Nashville. But what you're doing with like stories from the road and that one time is great, because you talk about experiences other people will never have and want to have, and are office workers or whatnot. And that's entertaining, man. So I'm looking forward to see how this goes for you. I was stoked. I listened to a couple, your first couple ones, and I didn't stop it. I listened to the whole thing. It was great. That was great. And the time we shared out on tour, man, I'll never forget that out on the cruise.
Do you have any stories that you'd like to tell about that? I'd like to hear what your take was.
I mean, you know how it was. That wasn't too crazy. It was a cruise, and we had some pretty serious jobs. You were there on a different job than I was. You played, but you had to work as well.
I was playing and I was doing production, and there was some falsities told to me and the guys in the band I was in, and I ended up at one point just saying fuck it, and I handed my radio in, and then for the rest of the cruise I just swam and drank.
Yep, I remember that. Yep, I remember that. You're playing with AJ. That was cool. But you know, I mean, everybody has their breaking point, but that cruise, the experience was amazing. Getting to see those places, it was great. It was fun for me because I was actually out with somebody I loved a whole lot, who worked production, probably still does production for those cruises, and it was a pleasure to be on those. It was fun.
I was just excited because the one thing that I actually did do production wise is I got to basically run sound for Queensryche. I was pretty stoked about that.
Nice.
Because they had like the front of house guy, but he had all this stuff going on, and so like I was helping set up, and then somebody was like, hey man, you know how to run this board, right? I'm like, yeah. So like I did their sound check and everything. He came back for the main gig, but just the fact that I was able to help out a band that I listened to when I was growing up was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and likewise, I getting to meet some of the dudes from Cinderella.
And Tesla too, man.
Yeah, Jeff LaBar, the guitarist Cinderella. Like I grabbed him and I was like, "Hey, man, I got a question for you." So in the beginning of Heartbreak Station, there's this wacky note that I believe is, you know, this G with that high A fretted on the high E string. But I was like, how do you play? How'd you pull it off? And, you know, I should have known it was a 12 string. But when he saw me stretch up to 5, holding a full G, he was like, what? He's like, man, I should have done it like that. But I was like, I just need to clear it up. I wanted to know how you played this song. And there's other guitar players I meet that I'm like, hey, I need to know how you played this song. Friend of mine, Kurt Chambers, who lives, I think he's in Nashville. He plays guitar for fucking Dr. Dre and Eminem.
Wow. That's crazy.
And he comes to a lot of Chris Young shows. He's friends with Chris, and he's a really cool dude. So playing for Eminem, I had to ask him how the real guitar part for I'm cleaning out my closet. That song,
yeah.
Whatever it's called. Closet, clean out my closet. Sorry, mama. So I was like, do 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 do. So getting to sit down with him showing me the real way the guitar part goes was fun. That's so satisfying, being able to meet with people and jam with them. And I got some jams set up in Nashville with some other guitar players that I'm looking forward to as well. And it's great to live there and be able to expand my horizons as a guitarist and musician. And I mean, I'm in the music mecca right now, so.
Have you like thought about possibly doing any co-writes? Or I know there's a lot of opportunity if you have, you know, networking capabilities in Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. There's always like 3 or 4 people that come out through the woodwork every year that are like, oh, we should form this band, and we should form this ultra band from these bands. And I played in Tantric for a while too, while we were on tour with Trapt, and that met me some other people. And there's always people that want to do another album, and but who's really serious to come out, or do I have to come out there? And yeah, I have some music things in me that are eating away that I need to get down and satisfy myself with. But I'm looking for the right people. I'm not really interested in just getting together and jamming and getting together and writing just for the shit of it. But when I find that person that's on my level of depth and creativity, then it's something I'll really dedicate myself to. So right now I still write by myself at home. I still do my thing, and a lot at home time given the country schedule, which is great because I write a lot of stuff. And so I'm working on that. I'm working on getting closure on a few albums that have been lingering for a decade or more. And once that's done, I can move on. And it's all a time period. It's all an expression of who I was at the time. And I'm looking forward to getting those done, locked up, and put away. But you know how it is when you write an album; it's never good enough. It's never over. It's really hard to press and put to print.
I've always had people, either a producer or other guys in my band, that are finally like, Chris, just stop playing that part. Like, it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've always been a perfectionist. I'm like, nah, it has to be perfect. And I don't want the Pro Tools computer to make it perfect. Like, I want to play it perfect myself.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I'll tell you what. I know you got to catch a plane here in a minute. I think.
Actually, we just got off the shuttle bus. I'm walking into Las Vegas right now.
Well, we're almost at about 40 minutes now. So I think I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun talking to you again, reconnecting.
It's a pleasure. I was excited when you reached out.
Well, you've got some great stories, and I'd like to thank you so much for being on that one time on tour. Do you have anything coming up you want to promote, like Chris Young stuff or anything else?
I mean, we're on the Losing Sleep World Tour. I'd like to give a shout out to my boy Kevin Collier, sexiest lead guitar player. I just kicked him in the ass. We are out for the whole year, and other than that, I hope to release some more of my own material. And I mean, there's a chance I might play some shows with Trapt again. I don't know for sure, but we'll see. It's all about attitude and how we can pull it together. But I'm in a good place, and I really enjoy it. So right now, this is all I'm focused on, and I love it. And I'm going to keep going as long as I can with it, brother.
Well, that's great, man. And I'm so excited that I got this chance to talk to you, and people hopefully are listening to this.
I hope so. I'm going to spread it around, bro.
Well, thank you very much, man. I want you to have a safe flight back to Nashville. I'll be in touch very, very soon. And thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thanks, brother. It's a pleasure. Miss you. Hope to see you soon. Let me know if you ever need anything. Come to a show. Love to have you.
Oh, hell yeah, man. If you guys come through the Midwest, I'm there.
Yeah, we'll be there soon, brother. Have a good day.
I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, bud. Bye.
Bye. And there it was, my conversation with Ty. We had a really good time chatting. Some of the audio was a little odd because we had a bad connection. I'm not sure if it was his end or my end. He was at the airport in Vegas catching a flight to come back to Nashville. So, hopefully in the future the audio will be a little bit better. But thank you guys for listening. This thing's so much fun, and I really appreciate you guys so much for being a part of it. And I would really, really like it if you would please rate and review us in the iTunes store. Preferably 5 stars, but if you don't think it's worthy of 5 stars, just no 1 stars. I mean, come on, don't be mean. But next week on the show, we have Mr. Precision, Dan Viklinski, from 88 Fingers Louie, one of my favorite bands of all time. I even have an 88 Fingers Louie tattoo. He also was a founding member of Rise Against, which I'm sure you guys have heard of Rise Against. 88 Fingers Louie broke up back in 1998, 99, something like that. And they've recently got back together and put out a brand new record on Bird Attack Records, and it is awesome. It's called Thank You for Being a Friend. Pretty sure it's a nod to the Golden Girls. So next week on the show, we've got Mr. Precision himself, Dan Viklinski. Dan and I go way back. He produced my first band, Chronic Chaos, produced 2 full-length records for us at his studio called The Bomb Shelter up in Chicago. So I'm very excited to talk to Dan. So please check back for that episode. It should be coming out very, very shortly. And I'm going to leave you guys with a Trapt song from their album DNA. Ty played on this. I think Kai co-wrote it. It's a song called Passenger. And here it is, Ty Fury with Trapt doing Passenger. Thank you guys so much.
Passenger, passenger, did I steer you wrong? Were you hoping that I'd get you somewhere? If this road is too long, tell me now, tell me now. I never took my foot off of the pedal. I never took my eyes off of the road. I ran straight through every red light to get you where you wanna go. Passenger, passenger, why don't you take the